Welcome, everyone. This is E2KGn30. This is episode 43. This is the news podcast for Enough to Keep Going. This is the weekly news in 30 minutes. This is a great day to hit a 30-minute newscast. So joining me is Osiris Prime. Sir, it is good to have you back. It's been a while since you and I have had a chance to talk.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's been a long time since we've been on I guess we had a podcast maybe a few weeks ago, but
Yeah, it's a
a
couple weeks
newscast.
now. Yeah, yep. This is the rotating chair piece. So, but anyhow, we don't have time for pleasantries here, people. We have news to cover, and today, this is May 17th, and this was the Black Ops 2 reveal trailers and announcements that came out. So, Prime, you've got a whole list of updates on Black Ops 2. We've got other stories to cover that have happened this week, right? We are only a few weeks away from E3. Actually, this week, a lot of games media people are down in LA doing Judges Week in terms of viewing things and getting some ratings there for to be able to claim best of E3 in different categories. So we're coming ever closer to E3, but so right now we've got a few releases, a few sneaks, but a lot of news to cover. Osiris Prime, tell us about Black Ops 4.
Yes. So actually, before I get into 4, I want to report on an IGN article here. Actually, all these articles that I have are from IGN. They're talking about the campaign from the past Call of Duties.
Yes, I saw this as well, and so I think that this ties in really well with some of the news that ends up coming out. So this was the report. This was a report off of True Achievements, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So what did it say?
So basically, they're saying that the majority of people really are less than halfway through the story of the game. Like they don't even finish it. So from one end, you got Black Ops 3. Yeah, Black Ops 3 through the story mode, which is it averaged about 4% that people would go through the story. And then the high end is Call of Duty 3, which averaged about 36% or so. So they're getting these statistics just from basically from the achievements that people get as they're finishing the game. Because usually you get an achievement. Because I didn't play Modern Warfare I played that on PC, but I played I can't remember which one. I think the original Black Ops. So every time you go through a story mission, it gives you an achievement. So I think that's the majority of how they're
Right, and this is only Xbox. This does not count PlayStation trophies or Steam or things like that. But
correct.
Again, it gives us a representation of kind of a percentage of players.
Yeah, it's a good sample at least. At least on one console, you'd figure it probably pretty close, at least on the PS4. So, and then they kind of go through some of the other games, kind of like Halo. They say on average, about 25% or so go through the whole story. So they're just kind of interesting to see those statistics. Like I said, yeah, it's on just Xbox, but it's still pretty cool. But that leads us into the next article here. If I can click on this, which is there will be no traditional campaign, and my IE just crashed, so that's nice.
So no traditional campaign in the newly announced Black Ops 4, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so what do we get instead of a campaign?
So basically what they're going to do is kind of, there's just going to be, I think it almost sounds like how Battlefield 1 did it, where they're just kind of these little missions that you kind of go through, and they kind of follow each operative, because your operatives from Black Ops 3 will return. And they kind of run through their story a little bit, kind of quickly, I guess. It's not like an overall.
The operatives are like your classes in multiplayer. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So in 3, there is there's a lot of them actually. I think about 8 or 9 maybe altogether, and I don't think they said altogether how many they're going to do here. But yeah, each little mission will just follow one of the operatives or one of the classes, so you just kind of run through really quick what they're going to do. So I guess that's cool, I suppose. I don't know how that's really going to work out, but I guess we'll see. So up next, we have Black Ops 4 on the PC, which is, I think, something that you and Zeus, and I might have been on that show too, had talked about, or potentially something was going to happen on the PC side, that Call of Duty Black Ops 4 will be exclusively available on Blizzard's Battle.net. So that's pretty interesting. they're actually working with Benox, I believe is how you say that, Benox.
Yep, it's Bnox. They did a couple of the Spider-Man games back in the last generation, but they've also done the remaster of Call of Duty Modern Warfare last year or 2 years ago now, I guess.
Okay, yeah, I thought their name was kind of familiar. I thought they had
Yep.
done the Spider-Man game. Yeah, so they're working to get the PC version optimized for optimized for the PC, and then to run off of Battle.net. So that's pretty interesting. So we'll see what's coming up on there, and then a few more stories here. We got multiplayer. So Black Ops 4 will not have any wall running, unfortunately, because I did like that. So the actual story is actually taking place in between Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3. So it's kind of a prequel, I guess, for Black Ops 3. Or this should be Black Ops 3, I guess. It's kind of weird how the numbering here, but yeah. So there'll be no wall running. It's all on the ground, and they have new. They'll have new abilities. It looks like each operative will have like one special ability that's just exclusive to that class or operative, as they call it here. So I'll talk about a little bit more on each of those coming up here. And then up next we have zombies. A little bit different, I guess. I never really played zombie mode. I don't know if you ever did when you played.
Yeah, I played it both in Black Ops 3 and in Infinite Warfare. Tried both of those zombies.
So there's kind of like an overall story, right?
Yes, yeah. The more recent zombie ones they give you a whole new set of characters. It's a kind of a through line story, right? The Black Ops 3 had kind of this I don't know, it was film noir-esque. It was kind of set in the 30s. It had a kind of Art Deco feel to it. You had some actual big name actors. You had Jeff Goldblum, I believe, was one of the voices. You had a couple other big name actors. But again, the idea is that it does kind of tell this own little separate side story and universe.
Yeah. So and that's, I guess, kind of different from when it originally started off. It kind of tied in with, I think, World at War maybe was the first zombie.
Yeah, right. It just started as like waves of Nazi zombies, and
yeah,
it was Treyarch actually in World at War that started this whole trend.
Yeah, so this one you'll have they've announced three levels, I guess, or missions or experiences for the zombie mode, and they kind of have a trailer, and it's just a CGI trailer, and it kind of goes through like these 4, I believe, or maybe 5 group of people that are doing some kind of like mystical thing, and they get transported to looks like Rome, like some kind of gladiator arena. So at least on that first map, it's just melee weapons. So that's the only way you'll be able to kill the zombies. So that should be it's kind of interesting. I thought not a few years ago, maybe there was like something came out that there was one of the companies was going to do like a Roman Call of Duty or something like that. So I wonder if they're kind of calling back to that or not. So it's interesting. And then last but not least, something that really piqued my interest was they had a trailer for the Battle Royale mode that's coming to Black Ops 4. Yes, there will be Battle Royale. So that was pretty exciting. I was pretty pumped about that. They didn't show any gameplay, really. They kind of just, the whole trailer was just kind of, I guess, kind of CG, but everything was kind of like standing still. So they kind of just like moved around the map, which in the article here, it's like 1,500 times bigger than any, COD map that's ever been, created, which kind of makes sense on, for that kind of game mode. So.
But it's also kind of stitching together a bunch of Black Ops characters throughout the series, right? And different kind of parts of maps. Is it what I was reading about?
Yeah, so that's what it looks like. Yeah, it's a bunch of different locales from the different games, and yeah, the different characters and weapons and abilities and stuff like that. Kind of when they start off on the trailer, you kind of see the new people. Like they have a guy with this big shield that he can pull out now, which they showed during the multiplayer trailer too. But then you see like other characters from the other CODs and abilities. Like they had the little car from the original, or the little roll control car from the original Black Ops, the first one. And you kind of see other like the little hovercraft thing, drone that you get in the second. I think in the third one too, you can get something like that. So there's a bunch of different things. So it looks really cool. Hopefully, like I said, it's kind of more of a CG trailer than anything, but I'm pretty excited about that. So that was my Call of Duty rundown.
That is. We got some good Call of Duty news, and there's lots to talk about. So yes. we are about 10 minutes into the show, so I'm gonna kick off and talk about a few other news stories for this week. But then there's so much I want to talk about the Call of Duty pieces, and maybe just because it just came out today. But there's a lot of nuance there in terms of battle royale, in terms of BattleNet. So let's quickly go through a couple other announcements that have come out this week. So we've got some game delays that have officially been announced. Right, we talk about this. We're coming up to E3. And so some of this is publishers getting out in front and managing expectations to let people know that there are things that are not going to be here, right? And we also know that there are things that are going to be here, like Rage 2, because now it's been leaked and there's been a trailer. But we've got some delays. Metro Exodus, in which we saw some trailers for last year in terms of more environmental and mood atmospheric trailers. Metro Exodus has been delayed to 2019. I wish Aggressicles was here because we could give him a hard time about Skull and Bones, Ubisoft's the spin-off out of the tech from Black Flag in terms of the sail and ship battle multiplayer game. So this was announced last year at E3, and it has now been delayed until the next fiscal year. So again, that is starting in April of 19 all the way through again into 2020. So it is not coming out this fiscal year is basically what they said, which runs all the way up until March of 2019. So we got some game delays there. We also had a little bit of kind of a tease, but an announcement that Borderlands 3, even though it's not officially announced, is not going to be at E3. So we've got some delays, but we've got some games that are coming out quickly. So starting today, May 17th, you can go on to your console of choice and download Onrush. So Onrush is a game from the developers that have spun off from Codemasters. They are the developers who did the MotorStorm series back on PlayStation 3. So Onrush is kind of a little more arcadey of a racer, but there is a beta that starts today and runs through the weekend for all your consoles. And another demo that's coming up next week is Mario Tennis Aces. So Mario Tennis Aces comes out in June, and there is a demo coming starting next Thursday. And actually, if you play through that, you'll have the ability to unlock some characters and some skins for the game that comes out in June. So we've got some teases and some delays. And finally, one of the other stories that came out this week, a couple of days ago, that Boss Key Productions is shutting down. So this is Cliff Bleszinski's game studio out in North Carolina. They had spent a lot of time working on Lawbreakers, which released last year, or a couple years ago, actually, because Agasicles had a chance to go out and play it in a press event and actually had a chance to interview Cliff as well. Just recently, Boss Key had put out the Radical Heights, the Battle Royale game, and in some cases there was some critique there about how rough it was. But now that we hear about Boss Key being shut down, I think it's also kind of that last. I don't know if it's a last ditch in terms of hoping to salvage something, or if it is just getting some good ideas out the door. And I say that because this week, in addition to the day after that Boss Key was announced that it was shutting down, Cliff Bleszinski posted on Twitter a whole series of kind of game concepts that they had been working on for the universe to use, right? I mean, so this is a really kind of an interesting piece of here's somebody who's relatively creative within the game space, somebody who has announced that he's going to be taking some time off because he needs to because he needs to do something different, and that seemed to work very well for Corley Balrog for the God of War series, and he came back to do the new God of War here, so maybe it'll be just as successful for Cliff. But I want to raise a glass to Boss Key and all those staff members there in terms of hoping that they land on their feet and find some good work elsewhere. So, Prime, that is a quick rundown of any other news stories that I saw that kind of piqued my interest or that bubbled to the top. Is there anything else that we missed in terms of news stories that you want to hit on before we dive back into some Call of Duty discussions?
No, yeah, I think that was pretty much it. I thought there was another. You might have covered both of the delays. I think I was thinking of. So I think we're good there. I really like to talk about Skull and Bones if we get time though at the end. So I
Sure,
just
yeah. Let's run down some Black Ops pieces and then go to the delays.
okay.
So, uh, so first off, I want to just take a moment to, and I wish I would have queued up my segment from January for our prediction show where I said that the new Call of Duty this year will only be on BattleNet, and I'm right. So there we go. I'm moving on. Not going to gloat too much, but thank you very much. Actually, it's not a surprise, right? That this is why would Activision pay Valve to put their game out on Steam when Call of Duty is such a big enough franchise that they can move people over to BattleNet and keep it all in-house and keep that revenue in-house as well. And it's shown to be successful with Destiny 2. Vicarious Visions put a great transition and a great port together for Destiny 2. And so Beanox putting together, hopefully puts together a really solid port there as well. And BattleNet has a whole lot of built-in features in terms of friends list and voice chat. And I find that the voice chat in BattleNet is a whole lot crisper and clearer and more responsive than the in-game chat within Destiny, as I've been playing that as well. So that piece I think is simply a matter of economics, that they are big enough. But Prime, I'm going to toss this back to you about the Battle Royale mode. So is this a Me Too? I don't want to say that word because that's a whole different connotation.
Yeah,
And I don't mean to
else, yeah.
I don't mean to joke about that because it's incredibly serious. Is this a Johnny Come Lately? Is this also ran in the Battle Royale, zeitgeist, or is this kind of the institutionalization of Battle Royale is just one more multiplayer mode that we're going to see, right? We got Capture the Flag, we got Deathmatch. Is this just one more thing that becomes part of the standard package?
Yeah, right before I answer that, I just want to go back to Battle.net for a second. And it kind of makes sense that they're doing it with this game and maybe this series, just because this is probably the more popular of the Call of Duty series out there right now. And they'll have dedicated servers and, like it says in the article, 4K support, which I probably should, and uncapped frame rate. So I think that it kind of just makes sense that they're gonna do it that way. And then as far as the Battle Royal, yeah, I think you're just going to see this as a mode coming, down the line. It'll be actually interesting to see next week with the Battlefield announcement to see if they're going to jump in there too or not.
Yeah, right. That's been the rumor. May 23rd is the Battlefield announcement. Actually, Trevor Clark from The Daily Show is going to be emceeing the Battlefield announcement.
Fancy.
But there has been the rumor out there that Battlefield will also have Battle Royale mode, which in some ways will be very interesting, right? Because Battlefield is known for large-scale engagements, but usually it's almost a 64 versus 64, 50 versus 50 type of Fortnite aspect there. So I wonder how they'll tweak that.
Yeah, it's going to be. And you kind of mentioned, if this is, hey, we're just going to, do this too because it's popular. But you got to remember, these games have been, in development for a few years now, because they switch development studios each year. So they get 2 or 3 years now instead of just a year like they did before. So, I guess it's possible that, they saw maybe last year that, this mode, this Battle Royale was getting popular, and they're just, all right, let's put this together, real quick. We'll see when it actually comes out to see if it's going to be, kind of clunky. And, if it's clunky and there's all kind of problems, then yeah, it probably was just something they want to attack on. But, this is Treyarch, so I got a little bit more faith that they kind of, will do it a little bit better than most people. I don't know what happened with Cliff's studio, if that was, the people who owned them, because I think it wasn't just a separate studio, right? Somebody owned them, owned the developers. So I think if I read that correctly somewhere.
I'd have to look. I think they were.
I thought there was a parent company somewhere in
there. It probably was, right? That there was some investment. And that was part of the discussion about that they were closing down to kind of almost stop bleeding money, right? That it wasn't necessarily that they were totally out, but that it was a financial decision that they weren't going to be able to move forward. And so rather than kind of burn it all out, that they decided to cut their losses.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I was kind of, maybe compared to that, but that might have been a different situation. But yeah, I mean, I think this is the kind of the proof is in the pudding when it actually comes out. And I don't know, I don't think I mentioned, this is supposed to come out. This game is supposed to come out October 12th, so a little bit earlier than usual. Usually it's the first or second week in November, usually like November 5th or so. And I don't know if that's because of it's kind of interesting because I don't know if that's because of Red Dead. Because I would have thought if any series could have gone up against Red Dead, it would have gone. It would have been Call of Duty, but maybe they're scared of them too, just because of the success of Grand Theft Auto and just all their other games are usually pretty big.
Yeah, I wonder about that, right? I mean, that was a discussion at the time when they announced that earlier October date, that was a whole lot earlier, because usually they're like end of October, beginning of November. There's been times a couple of years ago, right? We had Battlefield 1 and Titanfall 2, and then Call of Duty week after week there toward the end of October, beginning of November. I wonder if it is a Red Dead piece that they're getting out in front of it. I also wonder if it is also maybe a potential of where Activision's lineup is for the fall, that they're going to have a boxed DLC aspect, I'm sure, for Destiny 2. And then they'll have Spyro. And I think that's Activision. But then
I think so.
Yes, it is, because it's Toys for Bob. And then you've got this, right? I don't know that Activision has a whole lot else in the chamber in terms of, and maybe we'll be surprised at E3, but so maybe the potential here is that they get it out, they get some, early October is usually a lighter release time, right? That's usually when we get something like Rise of the Tomb Raider, or in the past couple of years we've had kind of those single player adventures in that early October range. Yeah. But those are dropping in the beginning of September this year, so everything is kind of moved up, right? Spider-Man and Rise of the Tomb Raider are both September games now, so maybe this is, like you said, Prime, maybe everybody is getting out of the way of Red Dead Redemption 2. So,
do you remember what the release date for that was exactly?
For Red Dead?
Yeah. Did they get one?
I don't know that I think they did. Let me see.
While you look that up, I just want to comment on a couple other things with Battle Royale. So, like you mentioned before, it is going to piece together different Black Ops games, so you can play different characters. Somehow they're going to bring like different sections of each map, I guess, and kind of splash them together, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you know that those characters, are they going to be almost like classes, or is it just going to be kind of a skin and everybody has the same abilities? Did they go into that at all?
No, they didn't really go into that. I'm assuming because the way they had the trailer, they were zoomed in on just like a high-rise building on like one floor, and they kind of spread out, and they were kind of showing like the different characters, and like different characters from each series are popping up. So I'm assuming it's probably just a skin, because although I don't know, because they like in PUBG and Fortnite, there's really no classes. You really don't have any other abilities other than just picking up a gun that you find. So I don't know, maybe they'll do that different here for Call of Duty. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's the same way, and I know that's the same way in Fortnite, is that everybody, it is a matter of just, are you male or female, and choose your skin and costume. But that's the whole point of it, is that there's not necessarily a class-based system within that. But there are some games, right? There is Paladin's Realm Royale, right there, Battle Royale 1, which Paladins is a class-based one, kind of class hero shooter, and so they're trying to experiment with that. So maybe there is, and maybe we'll find out more information there.
And I know they do say that there's going to be, other than the weapons, there'll be different, like I guess the kill streaks, not the kill streaks, but like I mentioned before, like they had the little remote control car and the drone. So I don't know if you'll be able to just pick that up, or kind of like in Call of Duty, after so many kills, you'll get that ability. So that'll be different. So we'll see. And then
or if it'll be in chess, like
Fortnite.
Fortnite, yeah, right. So we'll see.
Yeah, and for maybe for consoles, you'll be able to use vehicles. You'll be able to do land, air, and sea. They'll have, like in the trailer, they show like little 4-wheelers and this kind of like truck thing, and they actually had helicopters and stuff like that. So there are no air vehicles that I know of in PUBG or Fortnite. There's just, actually Fortnite doesn't have any vehicles, I don't think. But in PUBG,
just added or they have cars and motorcycles, right?
In PUBG they do. In Fortnite, I don't think there's any vehicles, as far as I know.
I'm not aware of any. No.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to have like air vehicles, and if they're just going to be transports, or if it's you'll be able to shoot, because that's like a whole different thing if you can shoot from the air. So
I think the other piece that I'll be interested to hear is if one of the things that from a gameplay design wise that interests me about the inclusion of battle royale mode here is if they go kind of the Activision Destiny route of having some type of overarching character rank, right? Your player rank, something that unlocks things or gives you skins or other things, but some way that somebody can stay in the Black Ops ecosystem and play multiplayer and play zombies and play battle royale, all while ranking up maybe those individual modes, but some type of overall uh, Black Ops rank as well. So no matter what mode you're playing, right? That's so that you don't necessarily, you can be playing, you're playing with different sets of friends or how the mood takes you, but still making progression overall. And so that's one of the things I'll be looking for as they kind of describe this in a little more detail. But I think that's a unique opportunity here with Black Ops, where with PUBG or Fortnite, basically it is just that game mode.
Yeah, and I know in I think when they first started zombies, maybe the first couple games, I think it was all with just one big, experience points, boost. But then I know in the last couple they actually split it out, so zombies had their own leveling up system, and then the regular multiplayer deathmatch and all that had their own separate one too. So,
yeah, they've been separate. There hasn't been
yeah.
a kind of universal account aspect to that.
So, yeah, so that'd be interesting to see how they, if they integrate that kind of experience and leveling and stuff like that into the battle royale mode.
Okay, yeah, so Red Dead Redemption is October 26th. So yes, everything is getting out of the way of that, or at least giving itself time to establish its audience to hopefully hold on to things. So is there any other discussion here you want to have about Black Ops 3, or you had mentioned about Skull and Bones? So do you want to dive into that a little bit there, Prime?
Yeah, so I was reading, and I can't remember if it was on IGN or somewhere else, when they were talking about the delay, how they had, the obviously the statement from, I forgot who it was, one of the guys was just saying, they want to polish it a little bit more and, just kind of, button it up. But the way they were describing the game itself was, they have this big open world where you can do all these, sea battles, obviously, and, there's all the other things. But I was wondering with the way Sea of Thieves was kind of regarded when it first came out, they had this kind of big open world and you could do sea battles, but kind of the rest of the world was pretty dead. And I wonder if that kind of scared them a little, maybe. And they're like, hey, let's kind of come back and make sure we have, things to do. Because, that was one of the biggest sticking points with, I think, most people, that there was, other than just kind of the main missions you could do back and forth, there was no really side quests you can do or anything like that. So I wonder if that kind of, if you thought that's what they were thinking.
I think that might be part of it, right? The idea of what else can we add to this so it feels like it's more than just a multiplayer game, if we're going to charge a full price for it. But I also think maybe your thought about how Sea of Thieves landed or crashed. I'm trying to think of a good nautical analogy there, right? They ran aground.
There we go.
But I think the piece there maybe is that they want to provide some separation, some mind share distance from having two pirate games released in the same year, and the first time people kind of got burned by it. So if it comes in a whole holiday season later, maybe they have the case to make that they've added more stuff, and also people are maybe more willing to give Pirate Adventure another try rather than still feeling kind of singed by their Sea of Thieves adventure. Yeah. Or lack thereof adventure.
Yeah. A pretty big delay, though. I mean
yeah, it's
potentially it could be 2020.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it could. We could end up looking at this as a fall game for next year. So we'll see. But I think you're right. Whether it's a single player campaign, or I could see them building on some type of mission, bot structure in terms of it wouldn't necessarily have to be a big story mode, but it could almost be almost like an RTS type of little missions, right? You've got a little bit of isolated story that then takes you onto a map and you have to achieve certain objectives. Like there's ways that they could probably build some of that without having to create a whole nother game system and structure in there too. So So yeah, I will be interested, and I'll be interested to hear. We did hear some cries in our flock channel today from Agasicles as this was delayed. So we'll see if anything else gets delayed before we head into E3. We've got next week. We'll have some Battlefield announcements and probably some other leaks as we get closer and closer to E3. So, Osiris Prime, do you have anything else for news for this week, or we have hit our 30-minute mark?
No, I'm good for now. I was just wondering if I know you probably didn't get to see it as much as the COD as probably I did, but are you interested in it a little bit more than you might have been?
So I was hyped for. I bought into the hype train on Black Ops 3, and actually pre-ordered it, got it, and just got so turned off by the single player campaign, the world, that I passed on it. So no, actually, I might be a little bit depending on how they play out the battle royale mode. Because it could be interesting. Chances are the fact that I'm in the BattleNet infrastructure means that it'll be continuing to tempt me and advertise me. I already got an email on my BattleNet email address, letting me know that I could start pre-ordering it as well. So I'm sure I'll be inundated, but no, no, I'm sorry to say that I'm not. I think the things that really interested me about I own Black Ops 1 and 2, and that was the story aspect of it. The kind of it was a little more unique. So how about you? I mean, you've been a Black Ops fan for a while. You certainly invested some time in it. Is this something that you see yourself getting ready to play this fall?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna. Actually, I'm probably gonna pre-order this one so I can pre-download it and do all that good stuff when once it comes out. And I skipped this last one, World War II. I didn't even pick it up yet. I'll probably get it eventually, maybe this summer. I don't know. I'm still playing PUBG a lot, but yeah, I've always liked the Black Ops series. So two is a little bit of a dip for me. Even in the multiplayer. Actually, I didn't even play the story, but the multiplayer, eh. But three I really liked, and unfortunately, there's no more wall running and jumping and stuff like that. But it should still be pretty good. I was pretty good with the World War II when I was playing the beta, so I don't think that'll be a problem. But yeah, but with the battle royale, and then even the zombies was kind of interesting me. Just kind of the story part of it, just kind of interesting how the time travel thing might work. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, Treyarch is a solid studio. I mean, they put a lot of stuff together. And I think the one last thing I want to say as we head out here in terms of the Black Ops 4 announcement is one of the things they mentioned toward the end of the press conference was that this is a game that's designed to last for years. And so one of the things we saw with Black Ops 3 is that even as Infinite Warfare was hitting, that Black Ops 3 was still releasing maps. And so I think Call of Duty is seeing, or Activision is seeing how, the idea of this annualized franchise, which we've talked about year after year, that some games hit bigger than others, and maybe it's a more detriment to the brand to have year after year questionable performances rather than have one big game that continues to provide some player engagement. So I think that will be the other thing to look for here is if this is the first time that we start seeing Call of Duty as a service. So anyhow, this kicks us out here a little over our half-hour mark, but we've got a lot of news to keep covering. Stick with us here on the E2KG network. Next Tuesday, we'll be back. Classically, Stamos and myself will be here running down the financials from both the third-party publishers and the platform holders. We've got the end of the fiscal year, and so we've got a lot of financial data to talk about. And if that bores you, then don't worry. Come back around next Thursday at this time, and we will hit up another 30 minutes of news on the E2KG network. So this has been episode 43 for E2KG in 30. And until next time, enjoy.